All right, let's go. We're doing this. It's exactly what the world needs is another podcast, and I'm going to be the one to give it to you. Folks, welcome to the Justin in the Jungle podcast. I am your host, Justin Wood, lifelong Bengals fan, ready to talk some Bengals. This is the debut episode where we're going to be talking about the upcoming season, how Buffalo Bill fans need to realize you're number 3 now. Take a seat. Why no Bengals fans are scared of Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk about this season's expectations. And of course, we're going to preview the huge upcoming AFC North battle with the Cleveland Browns. Here we go, folks. First off, I just want to welcome everybody. This is something I wanted to do for a while, is start a Bengals podcast. I absolutely love talking Bengals football. And this is, just something that I finally have just got around to doing. Before I get started, I do want to thank a couple people for helping me along this way. My buddies over at the Dirty Sports Podcast, Joe Prano, Andy Ruther, you guys are the inspiration behind this. You guys have given me a platform to come on there and talk Bengals. You guys love Randy Ruther, and Randy loves you guys too. Sean Green and Kramer over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. You guys have always had me on anytime you guys want to talk about the Bengals, and I appreciate that. And because of those two podcasts, I've just, I was like, why don't I start my own strictly Bengals podcast? It's not going to be hour long. It's going to be short. They're going to be fun. You're going to get 2 of these a week. I'm not doing it how I'm going to regularly do it. Usually I'll be giving you a podcast at the beginning of the week to talk about the last game, and then one on Thursday to preview the upcoming game on Sunday with a fan from the other team. Since it's the Browns, I do have another chance to bring a Browns fan on later this season. So I'm going to do that. This is more of a introduction of myself. Get to know me, get to know you guys. That's what we're doing here on Justin in the Jungle. Something that's been cracking me up lately is when you tell somebody you're a Bengals fan. The first words they have to say are you a bandwagon Bengals fan? What in the Kajana Carter, Achilles Smith, pretty much all of the 90s rosters are you talking about? How dare you, a bandwagon Bengals fan? Do you know how depressing being a Bengals fan has been? It's bad. And now we have something to celebrate. And here's the thing is, even in the mid 2000s, when we had Palmer, Chad Ochocinco, and the GOAT, TJ Hushmanzada, I'm actually wearing his Pro Bowl jersey on this special day. Those teams were exciting to watch. And it was something new for Bengals fans. But those teams cannot hold a candle to what we have now. And we've become obnoxious. I get it. But guess what? We've never had this opportunity. And sure, 1988, we were in the Super Bowl. Shout out to my boys at Barney's Beanery, 88. But we've never had it like this. We have arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL, arguably the number 1 wide receiving core in the NFL. And this team is just young, fun, and exciting. And yeah, I understand that it's the cool thing to like the Bengals now, but it used to be a nightmare for us. Like, real fans know the struggle we've been through. And it's not even just in the 90s. It was even, there from 2010 to, around that era as well. It wasn't fun. But I remember how I got into liking the Bengals was in the early 90s. My mom married my stepdad, who's pretty much my dad. He raised me. And he was a diehard Bengals fan. And he, anytime the Bengals would win a game, would always order us pizza. And it was the coolest thing. But because of those teams, I never really got a lot of pizza. It was more eat your hot dogs and go to bed. He was always mad. He was always depressed. And I never understood why he put himself through that until it wore off on me. The 90s were a hard time. And don't get me wrong, I still love the Bengals then. I loved Carl Pickens, Darnay Scott, Klingler. I love those teams. They were fun. They weren't that great. They weren't what we have now. But you learned as a young Bengals fan, like how to accept defeat. And I'm lucky. I'm also an Ohio State fan. So I always had Ohio State to, make the weekend somewhat fun and, give me a chance at a victory. But the Bengals team that we have now is almost like our reward for all of those hard years. Like wondering why we like people think you're insane for sticking through with the Bengals, but we did. And we all take pride in that. I got Bengals tattoos for crying out loud. Yeah. My golf clubs, all Bengals head covers. Like it's a way of life being a Bengals fan. And for once in these past 30 years, it's all paying off. It's so much fun. Every Sunday you wake up excited now. Like not just, oh man, I hope we get another, good draft pick. And thankfully, now what you're seeing with the Bengals is the results of all those draft picks. We drafted great. We, I don't want to say earned all those low draft picks, but we, some rough years, baby boy, some rough years. And we went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and that was, I think we were just ahead of schedule. I think last year being in the AFC finals, that's exactly where we should be. But I think this is our year. Like, I have never been this excited about a Bengals team that I am this season. It's unbelievable. And everyone, it was funny when we lost the Super Bowl. Everyone, like, I was maybe upset for 15 minutes. But I swear, I tell everybody all the time that 2016 loss against the Steelers was way more brutal, like way more gut wrenching, way more heartbreaking than a Super Bowl loss. We weren't supposed to be in the Super Bowl, and we were there. We shocked the world. And now we're finally on the radar. And it's funny because Buffalo Bills fans like are having a hard time accepting this. But I need you guys to realize you're the number 3 team now. Your time's done. Your window's closed. The Bengals own you in your own stadium in a snow game. You had all of the emotions, like all the motivation. The world wanted you to win. The NFL wanted you to win. Joe Burrow said no. Hey, Allen, you're not the number 2 guy anymore. And look, I'm realistic, and I'll give it to him. Patrick Mahomes, you know what? Joe Burrow is 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes won the AFC last year, the AFC Finals. Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl. So as a fan of the game, as a realist, I have to say Patrick Mahomes is number 1 right now. Can Joe Burrow catch him? Perhaps. But right now, it's Patrick Mahomes' league. And here's what I hate to tell you, all of you Josh Allen stands, he's not number 2 anymore. Joe Burrow came in to your house put his feet on your couch and had your wife cook him a steak is what Joe Burrow did. And we can talk about it. Living in Los Angeles, I like to go home once a year for a Bengals game. And last year, me, Joe Prano, Andy Ruther, the Dirty Sports Boys, we went home. We went back to Ohio for the DeMar Hamlin Monday night game. And before that happened, you know, Joe Burrow was owning you guys even that game. Like, he came down there, hit Boyd in the end zone. That stadium was electric. But, when everything happened, I will admit, like, the Bengals and Bills have always had like this little like second cousin type relationship. Like, we've looked out for one another a lot. And that was another example of it. Was I remember being in that stadium, and man, I'm lying if I'm not saying, like, of course, there's a lot of tears going. You don't know what you just saw a kid get, CPR. And it's when you realize like life is bigger than football. And even when we left, like when we were leaving the stadium, when they finally decided, to call it, which was the right move, by the way, I remember walking out and there was like unity. Like, it was like Buffalo fans and it was like there were no teams. It was like we were all one. Like, we were all like, patting Bills fans on the back. Like, man, I hope he pulls through. Like, this is crazy. But something that was a little crazy was, by the time we got out of the stadium, there were already people there with candles. Like, how did they get candles so fast? This is like not even 5 minutes after they called the game. Like, who's selling bootleg candles outside of games, like hoping for a tragedy? Like, those candles, like, people were buying candles more than they were like the bootleg t-shirts out there. It was nuts. But I have to admit, it was funny because like when we left, it was just like, hey, we're here for you. Buffalo, Cincinnati, it's same team. There were like these little paintings of like the Bengal and the Buffalo, like with their arms around each other, taking a knee. There were like the number 3 Bengals putting number 3s on their profile. And that was cool until the NFL decided, hey, if Kansas City and Buffalo make the AFC North, the AFC finals, we will play it at a mutual site. And Buffalo fans got mad at Cincinnati for getting upset about that. Because basically the NFL gave us a loss that game. And we were not losing that game. I get it. I get it. Trust me. I'm not, the big story of the game. Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to see what Hamlin's doing now. But look before that game. We were on a roll. That stadium was electric. Going into that game, it was just playoff football atmosphere. And for the Bills fans to get upset that Bengals fans thought that they got robbed, like all that one team unity stuff, whatever, that was thrown out the window. And I knew going into that game, even in the snow, Joe Burrow is a monster. I'm sorry. You guys can sit there and say, no, you're just saying that because you won. It's easy to say after you. No, I knew going into that game that Joe Burrow wasn't losing that game. And it was a great game. The score made it look closer than it actually was. No, from the first drive, I knew you're not on his level. You're not on the Bengals level anymore. And maybe later on in the season we can have another discussion. But as I humbly admitted, about Mahomes, Bills fans right now, you have to say the same thing about Burrow. He owns you guys. And if I'm being honest, I don't even know if Josh Allen's number 3 quarterback in the league. That guy is so reckless. So many like just pointless interceptions. He's I think he tried. I don't think he can improv. And look, like I said, maybe later on in the season we can have another discussion. But for right now, relax. Take a seat. You're number 3 in the AFC. Number 3 is not bad. That's still top 3. Good on you. A lot of teams would die to be number 3. You guys need to realize that's you. Like, maybe there's going to be some tables not broke this season. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. But I will admit, you guys aren't the most obnoxious fan base when it comes to the Bengals. Um, the Ravens. The Ravens are the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing because they like to throw in our face that Burrow has been injured. And they love saying Lamar Jackson. But basically, the last 2 seasons, we're not allowed to talk about with Lamar Jackson because he won MVP, 3 years ago? What I don't get that. Why is he the only player in NFL history where recent years don't count for him? Because he's been injured. But that's the same argument they use against Burrow. And here's some things I want to tell you. And shout out to Andy Ruther, Dirty Sports. Him and I have had many, many conversations about how Lamar Jackson is the most overrated and overpaid quarterback in the NFL, and it ain't close. It's not close. Guys, stats don't lie at all. And check this out. This is something that he sent me. And just listen to this. Here's a list of quarterbacks with more passing yards and touchdowns than Lamar Jackson in the past 2 years. I repeat, more passing yards and touchdowns than Lamar Jackson in the past 2 years. That list: Josh Allen, Mac Jones, Joe Burrow, Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, and Jimmy G. It took me about a minute and a half to read all those names of quarterbacks that have more passing yards and touchdowns than Lamar Jackson in the past 2 years. That's nuts. And you guys and the Ravens gave him that bag. And now what's your argument? Well, look at his rushing yards. He's a quarterback. What does a rushing quarterback get you in the NFL? This ain't college. What does a rushing quarterback get you in the NFL? And here's something even crazier. People are like, well, look at the weapons that Burrow has. Look at the weapons all those other quarterbacks that you just listed have. How about this? The Ravens defense, points per game in Lamar's 4 years as a starter. 2019, second. 2020, the absolute best defense in the NFL. 2021, they fell off a little bit. 18th best. 18th. Back to 2022, the third best in points per game allowed. So with a consistent, besides 1 year, top 3 defense, Lamar Jackson has 1 playoff win. 1. But yet this season, we're supposed to be afraid of him? We are laughing our asses off at him and the Ravens for giving him that contract. I love it. Give him more. He deserves more. And he has weapons now because he said he wants to throw more this season. He wants to throw for over 6,000 yards this season. Look, I loved Odell in his prime. Odell ain't in his prime anymore. And you guys have the world riding on Odell. Look, I'll give it to you guys. I think Zay Flowers, sleeper for offensive rookie of the year. I'll give it to you guys. I like Zay Flowers. I think he can do something. But he can't take you guys. He's not the answer. He's not going to give you what you guys think Lamar Jackson's going to get. Lamar's not that guy anymore. And you guys just paid him. I'm going to give you another hot take. Get ready, Ravens. You guys are finishing 4th in the AFC North. Dead last. I think every other team has way more potential, way more upside than the Ravens. You guys blew everything on that contract. Like, what are you doing? You guys got the most. You're excited about a running back at quarterback. We play the Ravens twice a year. We see him, and I see how inconsistent that man is with the deep ball. I'm telling you, man, I'm not just saying this to say it. Nobody's afraid of Lamar. And who knows? Maybe 5 weeks from now, I'll be, okay, I was wrong. I doubt it, but I mean, a clock right. What do they say? Clock's right once a day, twice a day. Lamar Jackson ain't right. That's not the one. Remember this for the clips. Ravens, 4th, AFC North. Calling it. As far as AFC North, I went on the sports gambling podcast a couple weeks ago for the Bengals preview episode. And I love those guys over there. They're fun. They always bring out a fun side when you go on their show. And I said, throw the house on Bengals winning AFC North. And I went one further. And this is definitely me being a homer. But I think the Bengals sweep the AFC North this year. I think it could happen. I just don't. If these boys play the way they can, this is something crazy, man. And look, everyone knows about the weapons. Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, add Irv Smith and their new tight end this year. Burrow's got weapons. Mixon, he shows up every now and then. And, he did something, pretty cool for the Bengals by taking the pay cut this year to, he knew that he didn't live up to, I'd say, the full potential last year. So we'll see what he does this year. But one thing I don't think anyone's talking about with this year's expectations is the defense. I know there's a huge question mark on our DBs coming into the season. We lost some talent back there. Now it's time to see, what these young boys can do. And I like their chances, but I'll say that there's a question mark on our defensive backs. But I'm going to say this. There is an exclamation point on our front four. DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, and the rookie Miles Murphy. This might be the best front four we've ever had in Bengals history, at least in my time of being a fan since the 90s. Like, I have a feeling that we are gonna be a problem, and we're gonna be living in some backfields this season. Again, Reeder, Hendrickson, Hubbard, and Murphy. Remember the names. You're gonna be hearing them a lot this year. And that's gonna lead me into the preview for this Sunday, is I think those 4 are gonna be the deciding factors of this game. Because the Browns look great on paper, I'll admit. The Browns look great. They are the biggest question mark in the NFL. The Browns could be something this year. If you look at that roster, the names and the talent are there. Now, is it the Browns? Yeah. And have we seen this before with them? Yeah. But they could come out hot. But if those front 4 give Deshaun problems, it's ball game. It's a wrap. The Browns' offensive line and the Bengals' defensive line is going to be the deciding factor of this game Sunday. And if you want my expert opinion, not home team opinion at all, Bengals 23, Browns 12. 23-12 Bengals. And now for the degenerates that are listening that came over from the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm going to give you my 3-leg parlay for this to put some money in your checking account. And I wish I could live in a state that sports gambling was legal. So for you guys that live in those states, here's the 3-leg parlay you're going to make some money on. T. Higgins over 4.5 receptions. Tyler Boyd over 32.5 yards. I think that all comes in one play, to be honest with you. I think Burrow and Boyd have at least one play of over 32.5 this game. That's easy money right there. And then give me Irv Smith anytime touchdown in that game. And that's your 3-leg parlay for the game. T. Higgins over 4.5, Boyd over 32.5, and Irv Smith an anytime touchdown. That's cash money right there. You're welcome. Now, why don't you subscribe, like, all that stuff to this podcast? Like I said, I want to keep doing these. I'm going to do 2 a week. Thursdays, I'll be previewing the game with a fellow fan of the other team. Monday, Tuesday, will be a solo one with me talking about what we just saw. I want to keep them around a half hour like this one is. And like I said, this is just the first one. I know I got a lot of work to do. They'll be a little different in the future. But for the first one, I had to get it out. I'm super excited about this. I'm finally getting a podcast going. So, yeah, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. And please, subscribe. I'm going to try and figure out how to clip. I don't know how to do that yet. But, yeah, this has been fun. We'll be back next week. And from me to all the other Bengal fans out there, have a great weekend and hoo-day, baby. See ya.